Today's reading will be taken from John chapter 13, verses 1 to 17. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just wash my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "If you call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." And then continuing from verse 31. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now. Where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you. Love one another, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
So we just heard the reading from John's Gospel about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. It's one of the two things that we often hear on Maundy Thursday. We either hear about the Last Supper or we hear about this incident of washing the feet. So I did a bit of research on the internet and found an interesting article on a Christian Today website that talks about this part of the gospel. So it says that there are three things that we can take from the reading. That Jesus wanted to demonstrate kindness and love without boundaries. So he broke down the boundaries of the traditions of the time by washing the disciples' feet. And loving each other sometimes means that we have to get our hands dirty, like Jesus would have got his hands dirty when he washed their feet. He showed that no expression of love was beneath him, and therefore no expression of love should be beneath us. This powerful display of love calls for us to remove the boundaries that can dictate how we express love for each other. Then the second thing that happened was that Jesus got rid of any sense of hierarchy, of anybody being more important than anybody else. So sometimes we feel like the structures of hierarchy mean that some jobs are actually somebody else's job. Somebody else needs to get on and think about it. Now, if you reflect on that, none of the disciples had actually thought, "Oh, we'll all need our feet washing before we sit down at supper." If you think about it, people used to sit in a sort of like almost lying down position when they ate their food. So everybody's feet would have been a significant feature. And none of the disciples had thought about who was going to wash the feet. So they sort of left that job up for somebody else to sort out. So in a way, what Jesus was saying was that we should be mindful that all jobs need doing. We can share equally the responsibilities of taking care of different parts of our church life, for example. And we shouldn't just expect that somebody else will do it. We should be mindful of the different things that need to be done. And then, of course, the last thing that Jesus taught us through this act of kindness was humility. He didn't consider himself to be so important that he couldn't do this job. It was an act of love, and Jesus just got on and did it. So that means that some acts of love will put us in places that might be uncomfortable or out of our comfort zones. But Jesus just got on and did it, okay? And even the discomfort of doing it didn't matter. The act of washing somebody's feet is quite a humbling experience. You're down at the floor, you're below that person. And so Jesus showed us that sometimes you have to be humble and you have to show humility. So it's sort of like a symbol for us that we should be modest and manage our own perceptions of our own importance. So I hope that those 3 points will be something that we can reflect on today. Just to recap then, that this act of washing the disciples' feet demonstrated kindness and love without boundaries. It abandoned all sense of like hierarchy, and it showed us that humility is something that we should all work for in the way that we behave.
From heaven you came, helpless babe, entered our world, your glory veiled, not to be served but to serve, and give your life that we might live. This is our God, the servant King. He calls us now to follow him, to bring our lives as a daily offering of worship to the servant King. There in the garden of tears, my heavy load he chose to bear. His heart with sorrow was torn. It's not my will but yours, he said. This is our God, the servant King. He calls us now to follow him, to bring our lives as a daily offering of worship to the servant King. Come see his hands and his feet, the scars that speak of sacrifice. from stars into space. To cruel nails surrendered. This is our God, the servant King. He calls us now to follow Him, to bring our lives as a daily offering of worship to the servant King. So let us learn how to serve, and in our lives enthrone Him, each other's needs to prefer. For it is Christ we're serving. This is our God, the servant King. He calls us now to follow Him, to bring our lives as a daily offering of worship to